dark, like lunging in from the shadows. Alright. One thing I like to do, one reason I kind of do reviews, I started doing reviews now, it's an easy thing to talk about, so I talk about those. But the reason I kind of started is there were a couple things that I think people weren't as aware of, or hadn't necessarily heard of. The 9 to 5 video is a great example. Like, I mean, that's an old movie, but a few others. Anyway, going back to that, I wanted to do a review of Son of Zorn, which, well, let's get into that just a little. Just briefly, Son of Zorn is a new TV series. Well, that's the tricky bit, isn't it? Its gimmick is that it's a blend of live action and animation. Cell-looking animation, anyway. And I caught it. You've probably seen the ads for it. They've been advertising it pretty well, particularly on YouTube and Facebook. So if you're one of the rare few people who watch this thing, you've seen it. You've almost certainly seen it. And you have to ask yourself, do you want to watch it? Well, yeah, I think you do. It's worth seeing. Here's the thing about it. It's a take on... It's He-Man. It is a take on He-Man, a satirical take, introducing Zorn of Etheria or whatever, the mystical realm where we have science fiction and barbarians and magic and all sorts of jazz and death hawks, apparently. And at the same time, it's actually a real place in the South Pacific. I think it's an island in the South Pacific in this series. What if it existed, a magical He-Man-like realm, but it's just an island somewhere? And kind of the jokes come from that. And that's its gimmick. Zorn is someone who was, raised in this sort of environment where he murders goblins constantly and helps his crew of freakish weirdos defeat I assume a Skeletor-like character who I hope we see at some point in some future episode. So far, it's very good. It's just one episode. That's all that's come out. I assume the next one will be this week sometime. And I think it's worth checking out. I watched it on Fox. Well, what the hell? I think I'll put a link to it in the description. The thing is, it is just the first episode. We haven't gotten quite to the point where we don't know if it's a keeper or not. Well, let's go over that a little bit. The way that happens to work with these animated shows. Let's go over this just a bit. All right. Here's the thing. Shows like this. This show's unique gimmick is that it's live action and sort of cell animation, and it has a lot of spoofs on He-Man. Like, there's a one-eyed guy I'm looking at. When I was a kid was when the He-Man first came out, way back when, and I was pretty big into He-Man. But I can't help notice that one of his friends looks an awful lot like Ram Man. He's a Ram Man-like guy, big stocky dude who slams into people. So, a take on that. What would this character be like in modern suburbia? And that's where all of our jokes are derived. I'm kind of lumping it together with Archer, Rick and Morty, but Archer in particular, Bob's Burgers to some extent, other animated shows that are like that. I don't consider The Simpsons part of that, although that is an animated show. Not quite the same. I don't know what to call this. Adult cartoons, where there's much more adult humor. yes, there is grim, gritty, funny stuff in The Simpsons, but not like that. Not like, murdering an animal in front of the whole family, or yeah, oh, this looks good. I'll eat it later. I just ate a cat, so I'm kind of full. But the humor's but dark but light. It's so hard to explain. Like, there are a lot of cartoons out there that are not. They're not The Simpsons. They're not South Park though, which is its own, which is very cool, but its own separate thing. There's a lot of shows. Venture Brothers is an earlier example. Rick and Morty, Super Mansions to some extent, Robot Chicken definitely, were these sort of animated features that are grim, sexual, violent, and evil enough. I can't call them children's cartoons. They're adult. They are adult cartoons. You'd pause before showing this to a younger person, and flat out not allow some of them to be watched by others. It's not that sort of thing. And this fits into that sort of category. And it's not bad. It's still its first episode. The first episode of stuff tends to be not, in my mind, terribly indicative of how the show will go. It's like, this is our first episode of the show. It's kind of getting its legs underneath it. It doesn't have it's not in its full rhythm of, I mean, for a lot of these cartoons, they start out and it's throwing spaghetti at the walls, the thing I've heard. See what sticks. Like, this is a brand new show. It's on Fox, I believe. They're going to research the hell out of this and get a lot of feedback, as much feedback as they possibly can. Some stuff works, some stuff doesn't, some stuff they'll emphasize, and whether or not that works, we'll find out in the next 2 or 3 episodes. Or whether it just gets shit canned in like a month or so. We'll find out. But I think it's worth checking out. It was amusing. If you are as old as I am, in your 40s, and are at least peripherally aware of He-Man, if not a full-blown enthusiast of He-Man, She-Ra, and crew, like, I know way too much about He-Man for my own good. But, if you're kind of a fan of that, this is an interesting take on it. It's clearly some of the Saturday Night Live crew. We'll see how this turns out. I really don't have too much else to say about it. I'm not going to do a normal review. It's just the first episode. That really isn't fair. One kind of parting shot. While I'm not sold on this show, I do like it. I did get some chuckles out of the first episode. I didn't think it was so much funny as I liked the direction it was going in. Like, I think it had the potential. It was more the potential of it caught my attention than the show itself. We'll see how it goes. But I like this kind of thing. I mean, this is experimental. I haven't seen cartoons and live action on a mature comedy. I can't think of anything like that. Not recently, not on Fox, for God's sake. So I always applaud experimenting and trying new weird things. I'm always a fan of weird. Give me weird, and I'm generally pretty happy. Other than that, that's really all I have to say about it. It seemed like a neat thing. You should check it out. I'll put a link in the description if I can find the link to the Fox site. Other than that, like and subscribe. That's me. I'm out.